The man who was never a suspect, the true story of Herbert Mullin, P.R.T. 1. Madness, Silence. In the beginning of the killings, Chapter 1, California was already afraid in the early 1970s. California lived under constant fear. The Zodiac killer had vanished but never been caught. Charles Manson had already left scars across the state. Trust was thin. Anxiety was everywhere. And in the middle of that fear, another killer began murdering, quietly, randomly, and without pattern anyone could understand. His name was Herbert Mullin. Chapter 2. A boy who was normal until he wasn't. Herbert Mullin was born in 1947 in Salinas, California. For most of his childhood, there was nothing alarming about him. He was intelligent, socially active, a good student interested in philosophy and religion. Friends described him as thoughtful, even gentle. Then something changed. In his late teens, Mullin became withdrawn. His thoughts became fragmented. His speech grew strange. By his early 20s, he was experiencing severe psychosis. Chapter 3. Voices that explained the world. Mullin believed the world was ending. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Literally. He became convinced that earthquakes would destroy California unless human sacrifices were made. And he believed the voices in his head were giving him instructions. They told him who to kill, when to kill, how many lives were needed. To Mullin, murder was not violence. It was duty. Chapter 4. The first killing in 1972. Mullin committed his first murder. There was no argument, no provocation, no personal connection. He simply encountered someone and decided that person had been chosen. The randomness shocked investigators later. Victims included strangers, acquaintances, a priest, children. There was no consistent victim profile, which made the killings nearly impossible to predict. Chapter 5. 2 killers. One town at the same time Mullin was killing. Another serial killer was active in the same region. This coincidence confused police. They assumed all the murders were connected. They were wrong. Mullin's killings were chaotic, ritualistic, and driven by delusion. The other killers were methodical. That overlap delayed Mullin's capture. Chapter 6. A killer who spoke openly. Unlike most serial killers, Mullin did not try to hide psychologically. He talked to people. He explained his beliefs. He spoke of earthquakes and sacrifice. But in the early 1970s, mental illness was poorly understood. He was dismissed as eccentric, harmless, confused. No one imagined he was killing to save the world. Chapter 7. Escalation. Mullin's murders accelerated. His confidence grew. Each killing in his mind proved the voices were right because earthquakes didn't happen afterward. To him, that meant success. The logic was sealed. Chapter 8. A town surrounded by fear. Santa Cruz County grew tense. Murders appeared unrelated. Victims had nothing in common. There was no warning. People locked doors. Churches warned congregations. Parents pulled children inside early. They feared a predator. They did not realize they were dealing with untreated psychosis armed with weapons. Chapter 9. The beginning of the end. Mullin was becoming careless. The voices demanded more. And eventually, they demanded something that would bring attention. He could not escape. The killings had reached a point where chance would no longer protect him. Chapter 10. A question without comfort. How does a system fail someone so completely that murder becomes their solution to fear? That question would define the case. Part 2: Arrest, Confession, and the Trial of a Man Who Believed He Saved the World. Chapter 11: The Day the Randomness Ended On. January 13th, 1973. Herbert Mullin walked into a park in Santa Cruz County carrying a rifle. He encountered a man working on his car. There was no argument, no confrontation, no threat. Mullin raised the weapon and fired. What he did not realize was that this time, someone saw him. A nearby witness noted the shooter's appearance, his direction of travel, and the vehicle he used to flee. For the first time, the killings were no longer invisible. Chapter 12: The Arrest. Police located Mullin's car not long after. When officers approached him, they expected resistance. They did not get it. Mullin complied calmly. He followed instructions. He appeared almost relieved. At the station. He did not ask for a lawyer. He did not deny involvement. Instead, he began to talk. Chapter 13: A Confession Without Fear. Detectives were unprepared for what followed. Mullin confessed openly, willingly, and in detail. He described multiple murders, the weapons he used, the locations, the sequence. There was no attempt to minimize. No attempt to shift blame. What shocked investigators most was why he said he did it. He explained that the killings were necessary sacrifices, that earthquakes had been prevented, that California had been saved. He believed this with absolute certainty. Chapter 14: A Logic That Could Not Be Broken. Mullin explained his thinking clearly and terrifyingly. Each time he killed, he waited. When no earthquake followed, he felt confirmation. To him, the absence of disaster was proof of success. This created a closed loop of belief. Kill gives, no earthquake gives. Validation gives kill again. There was no internal contradiction. The logic was complete. Chapter 15: Investigators realized a truth as Mullin continued speaking. Detectives realized something critical. This was not deception. This was not performance. This was severe, untreated psychosis. Mullin spoke of voices that commanded him, of divine instruction, of global catastrophe. He was not hiding his delusions. He was living inside them. Chapter 16: Linking the Murders over the next days. Mullin guided investigators through his crimes. Ballistics confirmed matches. Timelines aligned. Witness statements fit. In total, Mullin was connected to 13 murders committed over a period of several months. Victims included strangers, a priest, a woman, and her children. The randomness that had confused police now made sense. There was no pattern because there was no human motive, only delusion. Chapter 17: Public Reaction. The public struggled to understand. This was not a predator stalking victims. This was not rage or revenge. This was not even hatred. It was belief. Media coverage shifted tone. Fear was replaced by disbelief. People asked the same question repeatedly. How was he walking free? Chapter 1:8: The trial begins. Mullin was charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder. From the beginning, the trial was less about what happened and more about responsibility. Was Herbert Mullin evil or profoundly ill? The courtroom became a battleground between law and psychiatry. Chapter 19: The Insanity. Defense attorneys did not deny the killings. They argued insanity. They presented psychiatric Evaluations diagnosing Mullin with paranoid schizophrenia. Experts testified that Mullin experienced auditory hallucinations. He believed voices controlled events. He lacked the capacity to understand moral reality. But prosecutors argued something crucial. Mullin selected weapons, avoided immediate capture, understood that killing was illegal. That, they said, meant responsibility. Chapter 20. A courtroom divided. Jurors listened as doctors explained psychosis. They heard recordings of Mullin's speech, calm, articulate, and utterly disconnected from reality. The difficulty was clear. Mullin did not feel insane in the way people expected. He was not chaotic. He was not incoherent. He was wrong with certainty. Chapter 21. The verdict. After long deliberation, the jury reached its decision. Herbert Mullin was found guilty of first-degree murder. The insanity defense was rejected. The court ruled that despite his mental illness, Mullin understood the nature of his actions well enough to be held criminally responsible. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Mullin did not react. In his mind, the mission had already been completed. Chapter 22. A dangerous precedent. The verdict reassured the public, but it unsettled mental health professionals. If a man so deeply delusional could be deemed responsible, where was the line? That question would follow the case for decades. Part 2. Arrest, confession, and the trial of a man who believed he saved the world. Part 3. Insanity, prison life, and the mind that never recovered. Chapter 23. A prison not built for madness. When Herbert Mullin entered the California prison system, he did not arrive as other inmates did. He was not angry. He was not defiant. He was not afraid. He believed his task had been completed. From the first days of incarceration, it became clear that Mullin was not adjusting because psychologically, he had never left the world that led him to kill. Prison was simply a new setting inside the same delusion. Chapter 24. Voices. Behind bars, doctors quickly confirmed what investigators already knew. The voices had not stopped. Mullin continued to hear commands, warnings, and explanations for the world around him. He believed earthquakes were still possible, still imminent, and that his previous actions had merely delayed catastrophe. In his mind, prison guards were agents in a cosmic system. Other inmates were symbols. Punishment was irrelevant. Reality did not correct him. It never had. Chapter 25. Medication and resistant. Psychiatrists prescribed antipsychotic medication. Sometimes Mullin complied. Sometimes he refused. When medicated, he became quieter, slower, less expressive, but the beliefs did not disappear. They softened, they blurred, they never broke. Doctors described his condition as treatment-resistant schizophrenia, one of the most difficult psychiatric states to manage. Medication reduced chaos. It did not restore truth. Chapter 26. Violence and confinement. Prison staff soon learned something dangerous. Mullin's delusions were not passive. In 1974, while incarcerated, Mullin attacked fellow inmate Edmund Kemper, another notorious killer, believing the voices had instructed him to do so. Kemper survived. Mullin was placed under stricter supervision. The incident confirmed what experts feared. Even confined, Mullin remained unpredictable. Chapter 27. A mind Locke and Logic's psychological evaluations over the years revealed a disturbing consistency. Mullin's belief system had structured thought. It was not random hallucination. It was a fully formed internal logic. He believed the universe communicated through voices, sacrifice maintained balance. He had been chosen this. Coherence made his illness especially dangerous, because internally it made sense. Chapter 28 attempts at rehabilitation. Over the decades, therapists attempted cognitive therapy, medication, adjustments, structured routines. Nothing fundamentally changed. Mullin could discuss philosophy. He could speak calmly about ethics. He could acknowledge laws, but when pressed on the murders, his answers returned to the same core belief. I prevented something worse. There was no remorse in the conventional sense, only certainty. Chapter 29, responsibility. Without understanding this, raised an uncomfortable ethical problem. The legal system had declared Mullin responsible, but psychiatry observed a man who could not truly understand moral causality. He knew the rules. He knew the punishment, but he did not share the same reality as those judging him. This gap would define debates around his case for years. Chapter 30. A forgotten inmate. As time passed, public attention faded. New crimes replaced old headlines. New fears displaced old ones. Mullin became just another inmate numbered. No interviews. No letters to media. No attempts at explanation. He lived quietly, mostly isolated. His world still populated by voices no one else could hear. Chapter 31. The mind that never returned. Doctors eventually reached a consensus. Herbert Mullin was unlikely to ever recover. His illness had become chronic, fixed and deeply ingrained. There would be no breakthrough, no awakening, no realization. The man who entered prison believing he had saved the world would likely die believing the same thing. Chapter 32. A different kind of tragedy. Mullin's story is not one of redemption or transformation. It is a story of failure at multiple levels. Failure to treat severe mental illness, early failure to recognize warning signs, failure to protect both victims and the offender. By the time the system intervened, violence had already occurred. Repeatedly. Chapter 33. Waiting for the end. As years turned into decades, Mullin aged, his body weakened. His mind remained trapped. The voices grew quieter with medication, but never disappeared. He waited, not for freedom, but for the next instruction that never came. Part 4. Death, Legacy, and what this case taught us about untreated psychosis. Chapter 34. The end without closure. Herbert Mullin did not die in a dramatic way. There was no confession, no final statement, no moment of clarity. On August 18, 2022, at the age of 75, Mullin died in prison custody in California. The official cause was complications related to illness and age. For the public, his death passed almost unnoticed. For the victims' families, it changed nothing. Chapter 35. No final understanding. Like many killers who later attempt to reinterpret their crimes, Mullin never recanted his beliefs. There was no recorded moment in which he said, "I was wrong." Even late in life, medical records indicated that his core delusions remained intact. Though muted by medication, he did not see himself as evil. He did not see himself as cruel. He believed he had acted under necessity. That belief died with him. Chapter 36, Victims. Without meaning, Mullin murdered 13 people. Men, women, strangers. There was no personal motive. No pattern of revenge. No emotional connection. This made the loss harder to process, because when violence has no meaning, survivors are left with none to hold on to. Families could not ask, "Why us?" There was no answer. There never was. Chapter 37. A case that changed psychiatry, despite fading from public memory. Mullin's case became deeply influential in forensic psychology. It is still cited in discussions about command hallucinations, criminal responsibility, the limits of medication, schizophrenia, and violence. His case forced professionals to confront an uncomfortable reality. Some minds do not bend back toward reality once they break. Chapter 38. The failure before the murders won. Of the most haunting aspects of Mullin's story is how visible the warning signs were years before the killings. He experienced severe hallucinations. He showed disorganized thinking. He withdrew. Socially, he expressed delusional beliefs, yet treatment was inconsistent. Support systems failed. Follow-up collapsed. Intervention came only after bloodshed. Chapter 39. Law, Morality. And a broken divide. Mullin's trial forced the legal system to draw a line it still struggles to define. He knew what killing was. He knew it was illegal, but he did not share the same reality as the people judging him. The court chose responsibility over incapacity. Whether that was justice or necessity remains debated. Chapter 4. Violence without hatred. Like many killers, Mullin did not kill out of rage, desire, or domination. There was no pleasure, no cruelty for its own sake. This does not lessen the horror. It deepens it, because it shows that extreme violence does not always come from hate. Sometimes it comes from belief. Chapter 4:1. What untreated psychosis can do. Mullin's case stands as a warning, not a curiosity. Untreated psychosis can distort morality, replace reality with internal logic, turn ordinary people into instruments of catastrophe, not because they want to harm, but because they believe harm is necessary. Chapter 4:2. A legacy of prevention, not fear. The true lesson of Herbert Mullin is not about monsters. It is about systems, about early intervention, about continuous care, about taking hallucinations seriously before they become instructions. His story is not one to sensationalize. It is one to prevent from ever repeating. Chapter 43. The silence. After the voices. When Mullin died, the voices ended too, not because they were defeated, but because the mind that carried them was gone. What remains are names, dates, and a question that still has no perfect answer. How many lives could have been saved if help had come sooner?